Well, his plans to trim from the federal deficit have passed one hurdle, and this morning, Congressman Doug Lamborn joins us to talk more about his spending bill that cuts from National Public Radio. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning, Tim.
First, I know it's real tough to get legislation passed, so congratulations.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal to get some work done on the House, but let's break down the specifics of this bill for us.
Well, this bill addresses National Public Radio as opposed to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which has the TV component, and that's a lot bigger dollar amount. This is more focused, and frankly was done because it's on people's radar screen right now because of the comments Ron Schiller made, and you had that on your screen a few minutes ago.
We just played that a couple minutes ago. And what do you say to that when they say, well, some smaller radio stations that rely heavily, a huge percentage of their budget relies on government grants? What do you say to that?
Well, the local affiliates have been loyal to the parent NPR for a long time, and I think it's going to be time in the future for them to show some loyalty the other way. NPR has tremendous brand name recognition. They can parlay that if they want to go into the private sector and raise a lot of money. And they could have a network that's funded in the private sector. But however they do that, whether they can pull that off or not, and I think they can, we have to get our federal spending under control. It's that serious.
Well, how much, if we break down the bill, you say part of the bill is to prohibit stations from buying programming, things like All Things Considered, that sort of stuff. That's how much? $56 million we'll save?
Around, yeah.
And then the other part is prohibit stations from paying the dues, which saves about how much?
Another $4 or so million, so it's around $65 million.
And then direct federal funding of NPR saves a couple of million, right?
Yes.
So we're talking, what, $64 million is the number I came up with?
Something like that, exactly.
Is that chump change?
Only in Washington would some people say that that's not serious money. We have to have a mentality that if things can survive on their own, the taxpayer shouldn't be on the hook for those things, whether they're small or large. We have to change the way Washington does business.
Let me ask you another question about other public radio, like Voice of America, which is run by the Broadcasting Board of Governors. Their operating budget, I looked it up, is $755 million a year. Could we have trimmed from that, too?
That obviously, with that large amount of money, can have some efficiencies. There's no doubt about it.
But that's really more overseas stuff, right?
Yeah, and that's trying to help out with some of these countries, Libya, the Northern African countries, where democracy needs to get a foothold. And if that works, we're better off in the West with less terrorism and challenges against Western civilization. So I do think that that's a mission worth pursuing, but everything needs to be on the table.
There's a lot of, I think, misperception about your bill with NPR and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, PBS. Now, PBS, Corporation for Public Broadcasting, kind of doles out the money to NPR. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So if we cut money from the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, is that the next step, cutting funding for PBS?
Well, I would like to take that step as well. That wasn't part of the House bill last week, but that is part of H.R. 1, which the House sent to the Senate about 4 weeks ago. Right. So that is on the table as well, but that is a bigger budget amount because that's the parent of NPR. Can
we talk about H.R. 1 real quick? Because I was looking through it yesterday. We have some graphics. I want to put up the graphics. If we can go to the one about the Smithsonian. I looked at the budget for the Smithsonian Institution, and the salary budget is $634 million a year. That seems like an awful lot for museums. And facilities capital, $123 million. And I don't know if this is going to be personal or not, but our next graphic talks about the salaries for the House of Representatives for the chamber, and it's $1.28 billion. Could we, the members alone, $75.7 million in salary for you guys. Can we trim from that?
Well, on salaries, everything should be looked at. We have frozen salaries 4 of the last 5 years for congressmen. 4 of the last 5 years. And every federal employee is getting a freeze for the next 2 years. So we are already taking some steps. Maybe we need to look at more.
Are you afraid of being called the man that's foreclosed on Sesame Street?
No one had come up with that yet. So Tim, I hope you haven't coined a phrase.
I hope not. But I'm just curious because that's the perception out there. And how do you fight with that?
I don't want to get rid of anything that they do. I want to say, hey, Big Bird, we're going to push you out of the nest because you can fly on your own. I mean, these programs really can survive if they have a private sector mentality.
Are you worried about them being more commercial?
No.
Doug Price from Rocky Mountain PBS, do we have that clip? He has a clip. Can we take a listen to it?
Sure.
What gets lost? It's my ability to have 7 hours of children's programming that doesn't monetize. That nobody spends money to pay for kids when they can't sell sugary cereals or they can't sell toys. We have one thing we sell in those kids' programming, and that's preparation for school.
He's worried about commercialization of the kids' programming. Do you think that's a problem?
Tim, the budget deficit that we're running, $1.6 trillion this year alone, and $1 trillion a year for the next 10 years, if Barack Obama gets his way, and I hope he doesn't on the spending, we have to be serious. We have to make some tough decisions. So if something can survive in the private sector, and Sesame Street and CPB and PBS and NPR, they all can, we have to take that step.
And tough choices.
That's
you
right.
Don't have an easy job.
That's right.
We appreciate you taking the time to come in to talk with us this morning, Congressman.
Good morning. And
Congressman Doug Lamborn. Let's real quick.